And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
Steve writes in, listening in Cyprus at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. My guess is that John is broadcasting from a submersible on the way to the Titanic.
Well, I'm sitting here next to the lake over in front of Bellagio. And I got to tell you, if this hotel was in California, how long do you think it would have taken before that became the bathtub for the homeless? And the fountains would become the bidet.
And it's not like Vegas doesn't have homeless people. They do. They just all live underground in the tunnels.
Well, that's fine. Keep them there. That way they're not harassing the rest of us at the gas station. Now, Randy, I've got to tell you, this room that I'm staying in right now is the most technologically advanced room I've ever seen.
Doesn't sound like it.
Well, I said the room is. I didn't say my equipment was.
The laptop and microphone that you brought to that room is an insult to that room.
And as you know, Randy, I'm not the most technologically educated person on planet Earth.
We can hear.
So I walk into the room at night last night after dinner. I get here after the show, and I'm trying to just figure out how to turn the lights on. And at my house, there's just a switch. You flip the switch, the light goes on. But now that I'm on the Starship Enterprise over here in Las Vegas, it's not that simple. So I just start pressing all the buttons trying to get the lights to go on. And the blinds go up, the blinds go down, the maid shows up. Everything is now associated with the button. I could do everything but get the lights on.
You know, that was one of the things that I remember from that video you sent me about the success of the Hampton, is that one of the reasons people like staying at a Hampton is they know where the light switch is.
They do, and they know where to find that waffle in the morning, too. All right, don't worry, kids. I'll be back in California on Monday. All right. So we know that the state of California is going through an insurance crisis. Insurance policies are hard to come by, particularly if you live in a fire zone. And for those of us who don't live in a fire zone, our rates are only going one way, and that way is up. We have regulations in California where companies like, let's say, State Farm, are supposed to go in front of the California Department of Insurance and make their case for a rate increase, and then the commissioner says yes or no. The last time State Farm did that, the insurance commissioner announced before the hearing ever took place that he was going to give it to them, but that he was forcing them to go through the motions. People who were at the hearing said that State Farm did not, in fact, prove their case, but again, the California Department of Insurance just gave it to them anyway. Well, now we're having some response from other individuals who monitor that industry as to exactly what's going on with the rate increases.
Well, and this all stems from the fact that State Farm was given a rate increase under the stipulation from Sketchy Boy.
I'm very kind of sketch.
That they show in writing why it is that they need it. And now they're putting forth court filings saying that they don't want to have to tell the public why they need it. They don't want to have to open up their books. And that has caused a lawsuit to State Farm from Consumer Watchdog, the organization responsible for Prop 103. Here is an interview on KTVU with the head of Consumer Watchdog.
The cost of homeowners insurance is going up for many Californians as the state's insurance commissioner allowed State Farm's emergency rate to go up by 17% for homeowner policies.
And, John, what did State Farm do immediately after getting that rate hike?
Ask for another one.
Yep.
State Farm representatives asked a judge for permission to keep documents that they say justify the rate increase away from the public, a request that consumer advocates say.
Why wouldn't State Farm want to show us why it is they need the money?
That's a good question.
Did you see that story? This is about a week or two ago, where one of the fire victims in the Altadena area finally got her check from State Farm, and it didn't clear at the bank.
Well, one of the things that that's funny, not actually funny, but not surprising. One of the things that we know that is supposed to happen is if the California Department of Insurance is going to give them the ability to increase the rates, they can use that to lean on them to enforce the contracts that exist now. Meaning, if fire victims are not being paid what they are owed, the state can say, look, we'll give you the rate increase, but you have to make these people whole. We're not asking for anything that's not in the contract. We're just asking you to fulfill your obligations. That's not what's happening here. And then you also have some, I believe maybe even from Consumer Watchdog, who appeared on this program, who claim that many of the financial problems that the insurance companies are experiencing are not even related to payouts. They're related to how they invested the money when people sent their premiums in. They made some bad investments at times, and now they don't have a pile of cash to give out to ratepayers whenever they need it.
That's right. If you think that an organization like State Farm takes your premiums and puts them in a bank account and sits on them for whenever their customers actually need to file a claim, that's not what they do. They take your premiums that you pay every single month and they go gamble with them.
And if the gambling wins, they're fine. If the gambling loses, you're screwed.
A request that consumer advocates say violates state law. Let's get some insight by turning, as we often do, to Harvey Rosenfield, the founder of Consumer Watchdog. Thanks for being with us.
This is the guy that wrote Prop 103.
Good morning, Gasha.
At what point does this become bad business for State Farm?
You know what? They really don't care. They're already withdrawing from neighborhoods in the state, and even though the commissioner gave State Farm $700 million in advance a few months ago with the promise that State Farm would justify their need for it, State Farm's still pulling out of neighborhoods all over California. So they don't have a lot of motivation or concern about the market or attracting new customers.
It is interesting that you're starting to see a business model where a company like State Farm, they don't care about bad press.
Well, here's what I don't understand. If you're an insurance broker, how do you make money anymore? Because your company is not allowing you to sell the product. So I guess you can keep and try to maintain your existing customer base, but that just becomes a battle of attrition.
That's the big problem here. And now they don't want to justify getting the money that the commissioner already gave them. And they want to keep everything secret, which is a violation of the Proposition 103, which the voters passed years ago to protect themselves against price gouging.
So what's being done to compel State Farm to show its numbers?
Well,
Nothing Ricardo Lara's doing.
No, at this point, he understands that his political career is over. There was a moment in time where I guess he thought he was going to become an LA County supervisor or lieutenant governor, but even he understands that's not going to happen. So at this point, he's just lining up his next gig, which I assume is going to be in the insurance industry.
Well, and he pretty much said all of that at that one symposium he had in front of the insurance industry. This was Ricardo Lara's own words.
I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
That was his swan song.
Well, we have the law on our side, and we're in the middle of a very intense legal battle with them to get them to provide this information. The law says that if they cannot justify their rates, they can't get a rate increase, which means in this case that they'd have to give the money back.
You figured this would be so simple if State Farm was really as broke as they say they are, and the state version of State Farm might say they're broke, but they have a parent company that's worth a ridiculous amount of money. All they would have to do is open the books and show us that, yes, us homeowners, we're not paying enough, and these claims are through the roof, and home values are through the roof. It would be so simple to show us an Excel spreadsheet. Here's why we need to charge you more money. If they don't want to do that, that's where something shady's going on here, and this has nothing to do with the fact that California's not profitable.
Well, what does the law say, though? Do they have to convince a reasonable person that they have proven their case, or do they have to convince Ricardo Lara? Because those are two different things.
To people who Commissioner Lara allowed to be charged just a few months ago. And on top of that, you've got the problem with the victims of the Los Angeles January wildfires. are having a lot of problems getting State Farm to pay their claims. And their point is, well, why should State Farm get a rate increase if it hasn't paid claims as it's required to under its existing rates?
And the tactics that they're doing, whether it's delay, passing you off to 5 different adjusters, this is by the book, trying to nickel and dime, screw over people that have been paying them for decades.
And if your house burned down in the fire, again, you've already been traumatized. You've already been through a lot. You have to buy all new everything, down to the toothbrush. You have to ask yourself at a certain point, how much time do you want to spend fighting with everyone? Because you're fighting with the Coastal Commission, you're fighting with the city, you're fighting with your bank, now you're fighting with the insurance company. Most of them at some point are just going to wave the white flag, and State Farm knows that.
And you remember in the Palisades, Karen Bass kept doing press conferences at this one house because it was the one guy on a block that was rebuilding, and he was doing it out of his own pocket. And Karen Bass was like, look at this. This is a success right here. We're rebuilding so fast. And then the local news asked the homeowner one question. He said, well, this is about as far as we're going to get because we're in our own pocket on this one. State Farm still hasn't written us a check.
No, and this is where not all insurance companies are equal. Some are better than others at paying out these claims. State Farm has the reputation as being one of the worst.
So the governor of Illinois, where State Farm is based, is calling on state legislators there to do something about rising insurance rates after State Farm said it was hiking homeowners insurance in Illinois by 27% beginning this month. Do you have much hope for sort of a nationwide solution to this instead of a state-by-state?
Garcia, it's always been a state-by-state issue because of the way Congress set this up in the 1940s. State insurance is regulated at the state level. When the insurance companies get out of hand, which is frequently, here in California, the voters reacted in 1988 and passed a sweeping insurance reform. It's the strongest consumer protection law in the country, and they have to comply with it. The problem now is you have the insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, is really bending over backwards to capitulate to all the insurance companies' demands, which is why he allowed State Farm to raise rates even before they proved they needed to.
And they're still pulling out of the market. They're not writing new policies. Every single thing that Ricardo Lara has done that he said was going to bring the insurance market back and bring back competition and lower the rates, they're not coming back.
Well, and here's the bad news. He did all of that when he thought he had a political career. Now that he knows his political career is over, he's really dangerous.
And now that they need to show that proof, pay first, proof later. They don't want to show the proof. So it's a statewide issue, and thankfully the voters passed a law that protects all of us against the kind of abuses, and now it's up to the insurance commissioner to make sure he enforces the law.
So when it comes to insurance, because we have you, let me ask you about this. Some new data I found this morning from the FAIR Plan show the insurer's presence is growing faster than ever before, adding like 90,000 new policies the first half of this year.
Wait a second. I thought all of Ricardo Lara's things were to get people off the FAIR Plan, and now the FAIR Plan is growing faster than ever.
I guess it's not working.
The first half of this year used to be viewed as the insurer of last resort. Should we shift how we view the FAIR Plan?
Well, the FAIR Plan is a big problem, too, now, right? First of all, your viewers need to know the FAIR Plan is controlled by insurance companies. Second thing is, the insurance commissioner issued an order saying that if the FAIR Plan runs out of money, they can turn to the insurance companies that control it. They have to pay, but then the commissioner allowed the insurance companies to turn around and make the policyholders and the rest of the state, no matter who their company is, bail out the FAIR Plan.
And that's something that Ricardo Lara enacted just weeks before the fires.
Just remember, when they bail out the FAIR Plan, they're not bailing out the homeowners. They're not bailing out the state. They're bailing out the insurance companies.
Which is a bailout for the insurance companies. We've brought a lawsuit challenging that because the commissioner does not have the authority to force California homeowners all over the state to bail out the insurance industry.
All right, we'll have to leave it here. Our time is up, unfortunately. Thank you so much, Harvey Rosenfield, founder of Consumer Watchdog, for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Garcia.
Of course.
You know, I think he's just on a regular laptop microphone, and it sounds better than you.
Stop. I'll be back in California on Monday. And I promise the next time I go on the road, I'll have the new microphone.
I'm holding you to that.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Am I? Did I say there was
Oh,
an
I
email?
thought so. I don't know what ends up anymore. Sometimes you tell me to throw it to you for the mailbag and I forget. Sometimes I throw it to you and you don't tell me to do it.
Here's one about the mail thieves we talked about last hour. This comes from Eric the Mailman. Shout out to our mail carriers out there. Hey, Hot Johnny and Cool Randy. The only valuable mail we deliver anymore are jury summons and postal marketing cards for the Ace Hardware the rats are buying their sticky traps from. If I reach into a mailbox and pull my hand out and it's sticky, I'm going to be pissed. Don't piss off your mailman or I'll make sure your mortgage is late. We love our letter carriers here on the John Phillips Show.
And with the end of the show quickly approaching, if people want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for the John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcast, whether it's an Apple podcast, iHeart, Spotify. Search for the John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do a Google in the YouTube or get that KABC app. Get that KSFO app. Easiest way there is to listen live to these radio stations wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and download all our podcasts. And you know, those apps, KABC app, KSFO app, they work on Apple CarPlay, which is available in certain Chevy models. It's available in certain Fords. It's even available in certain Nissans.
That was an Altima ALTMA 4899410. Please move it now. You're blocking someone.
And Randy, if you're in the Fresno area this weekend, we're going to be on the radio.
Every Saturday from 2 to 3, you can listen to a special version of the Fix California Hour on KMJ, that big blowtorch of a radio station in Fresno. It is on 580 on the AM dial, 105.9 FM. You can stream it live at kmjnow.com and download the KMJ Now app.
Questions?
Someone emailed us yesterday asking what that is. That was the crazy lady who was walking around in Pasadena with an axe trying to go after her tenants.
And apparently she had questions and wanted some answers.
I'll be back. Get out.
As we've been mentioning, the reason I sound a little different on the radio today is I'm broadcasting from Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'll be here today and tomorrow. And Randy, I got to tell you that when you walk through the casinos, when you walk through Las Vegas on the street or wherever you happen to be around the restaurants, you notice that Las Vegas is not as crowded as it used to be. I'm sitting here right now broadcasting in a hotel room overlooking the 15 freeway right outside the Bellagio and Caesar's Palace, and it is the early portion of the drive home, and the 15 freeway is moving in both directions. It's not clogged up like it usually is. People are moving about, and it's just not a city that is overwhelmed with people like it once was.
I mean, gosh, it used to be Thursdays were the big day because that's the night where all the strippers from Los Angeles come into town to perform at the Vegas strip clubs.
Oh, yeah. Well, that'll clog the 15.
If you ever want to get on a real interesting flight, take the last flight on a Thursday night from Burbank to Vegas.
Oh, my.
That's where the girls make the real money.
Actually, I did that once. I was on a Southwest airline plane from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, and it was exactly that. It was porn stars who were going to Las Vegas who also doubled as stand-up comics. And then when they found out what I did for a living, they were pitching themselves as guests on the show.
Unfortunately, we're governed by the FCC. Otherwise, there would be some real interesting shows.
Yeah, no kidding.
But, Johnny, tourism in Vegas is down. And, in fact, it has now been reported that tourism has been down for 6 months straight. And sure, you can attribute some of that to the international stuff that's going on and the tariffs and Canada being pissed at us. But there's a lot of reasons why people aren't going to Vegas. There's a lot of reasons why the hotels are freaking out and now offering all these deals on free parking and cutting out resort fees. It's because Vegas has gotten very, very expensive.
Well, I can tell you this. Last night, I went to a very nice steakhouse with a group of people, and the prices in the menu at that steakhouse are much more expensive than what you would pay in New York City or London or Paris or Los Angeles or San Francisco. The shrimp cocktail appetizer last night was north of $40. Not for a huge one for the table, not for a seafood platter. Just an individual shrimp cocktail was north of $40 as an appetizer. I could not believe my eyes.
That is unbelievable. That's your gambling money right there.
Yeah, no kidding. And if you eat that in summer, you really are gambling.
For more on the drop in Vegas tourism, here's a report from KNTV in Las Vegas.
Right now, some troubling signs for our local economy. Chances are you or someone you know works in the hospitality industry, but tourism numbers show a continued decline right here in Southern Nevada, and that dip in visitors is causing a big concern for many Valley workers. Las Vegas, the tourism capital of America, is facing a reality check.
I know that tourists does play a big part on the casinos, business and stuff like that.
And for people trying to break into the industry like Lexi Babil, a blackjack dealer in training, this drop in tourism is impossible to ignore.
How many hours do you have to be in training before they let you loose on the tables?
Well, on the Strip, a while.
According to data from the Smith Travel...
Do you have to start like on Fremont Street and work your way up to the Strip?
I think they start you in Elko.
According to data from the Smith Travel Research, in June, occupancy fell 14.9%, and it got worse in July. For the week ending July 5th, Las Vegas posted the sharpest decline in the nation. Hotel occupancy fell...
Oh, boy.
You could feel it while you're here.
Hotel occupancy fell to 66.7%. That's down from last year. A big reason, fewer international visitors, down more than 13% in June alone.
And by the way, that means that if you happen to be a loyalty member at any of these casino chains, they damn well better be giving you an upgrade.
Well, yes. So to talk about the international travel for a second, what they're experiencing is what happened in California. Where in California, when we legalized gambling at the Indian casinos, instead of going to State Line, instead of going to Laughlin, instead of going to some of the lower end places in Las Vegas, Californians who need to scratch their gambling itch now just go to the Indian casinos. It's going on in Northern California. There's a ton outside of the Sacramento area. There's a ton in the Inland Empire in Southern California. But the same is true internationally. It used to be a lot of people from Asia would come here to gamble because there wasn't any really big gaming epicenters in Asia. But now they have Macau, and I think they have 2 or 3 other cities that we've probably never even heard of here that are bigger than Las Vegas. So you don't have to get on a plane and go to the other side of the world to gamble anymore. You can do it right in Asia.
How does that make you feel as you're planning to hopefully get a job on the Strip?
I'm hoping that the locals will kind of, hold it down and, still come through a lot. I've definitely heard.
She's going to have to stand in the alleys and start doing some 3-card Monte while she waits for a job.
I've definitely heard of thousands of layoffs with dealers and just casino workers, period.
To get a better sense of what's happening with local workers, I reached out to...
And here's the thing, if you live in Vegas and the casinos aren't hiring, what do you do?
Yeah, there's not a lot of industry out here. I think silver at one point in time was big, but now it's basically gaming and tourism.
Period.
To get a better sense of what's happening with local workers, I reached out to Ted Papageorge with the Culinary Union.
Well, our members are quite concerned right now. What we're seeing is a softness in business.
They represent tens of thousands of strip workers.
Well, our members are telling us is that the companies are holding off on hiring, and there's incidental reductions highlighted here and there, but some of them are significant.
And Ted, how can that impact the livelihoods of people who live right here in our valley?
25% of our folks are part-time that work in the big hotels. They work on the extra board. And if visitation is soft, those are the first folks that have their hours reduced.
And then they don't stay. They go move somewhere else.
This is a very transient city, Las Vegas, Nevada. It's very hard to find people who are from here, who were born here, raised here. People generally move here when they want to start their life over again after something didn't work out wherever it was that they lived before here. And guess what? Just as easily as they packed up and moved here, they can pack up and move out. And the population in a place like Las Vegas can be an accordion. It can get big and it can get small. They call it boom and bust.
Goodbye, Las Vegas, Nevada. Hello, Las Vegas, New Mexico, which is a real place about 100 miles away from Vegas.
But what can
Not as many video poker machines.
No.
But what can happen if this continues is that companies will look to make reductions and increase workload for those that are remaining on the job.
In a city that thrives on visitors, the numbers aren't just economic, they're personal, especially for many like Lexi.
Yeah, Vegas is a strong city, a strong state, so I just feel like, they're going to take a beating, but they'll bounce back.
Now, I also did check in with some gaming and bar.
Be surprised. I thought all the excitement of the A's moving there was going to supercharge interest in Vegas.
Can you imagine how empty that stadium is going to be all summer long?
Well, it's going to depend on who they're playing, but yeah, it's going to be a dead zone. It's going to be like when the A's played at the Coliseum.
Pretty much.
Now, I also did check in with some gaming and bartending schools, and despite the drop in tourism, they say enrollment is actually going up.
Well, it's always a fallback career. No matter what city you live in, you could make it as a bartender if you're good enough.
I'll tell you, after being here for, about a little under 24 hours and just seeing some of the eye-popping prices that they're charging for everything from shrimp cocktail to a cup of coffee in the morning, they're going to have to come back down to reality. And if they don't come back down to reality, it's going to get worse. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. And Randy, we have time for one more edition of the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
Now, on this show, we've talked about fake doctors. I think it was earlier this week we talked about fake firefighters. But now we're going to talk about fake cops.
Yeah.
Someone got busted in Hemet for being a fake cop with a fake police motorcycle. I don't know if he had a fake mustache. Let's find out. Here's KCAL in Los Angeles.
Now, an officer in handcuffs, or so it appears. In reality, Hemet police say this is a convicted felon arrested for impersonating a motorcycle officer. KCAL's Joy Benedict tells us it's raising...
Well, this guy got some kind of Chips fantasy?
I guess. Maybe he wants to be Eric Estrada.
KCAL's Joy Benedict tells us it's raising concerns over identifying real officers.
The uniform looks legit. The motorcycle says traffic, even has flashing lights. But police officers say he's not one of theirs. In fact, they say the man on this bike wasn't a member of law enforcement at all.
It's scary. It's very scary.
Drivers in Hemet are on alert as word spread quickly about a man arrested for impersonating an officer.
What exactly was he going to do if he pulled someone over on his hog?
I don't know, but you know how they found out he wasn't a real cop?
Was that?
They never saw him at a donut shop once.
He had all the equipment, the motorcycle, and was just riding around town. Who knows what he was doing? Nothing good, obviously.
You do have to be real up close to tell that it wasn't really a cop.
The real cops pulled him over Monday afternoon after...
Like, was this some kind of situation where he sees a pretty girl, he wants to pull her over, and he thinks that this is going to work just like a porno where she says, well, how about I help you out and I get out of this ticket?
Yeah, I don't think it works that way.
The real cops pulled him over Monday afternoon after they say they saw the man riding around in a uniform, wearing a duty belt, and carrying what appeared to be a Glock-styled firearm. But after they got him off the bike, they say it was in fact 2 tasers, a baton, and a lot of badges that said traffic and sheriff.
This guy's a collector.
Yeah, what? Does he just go to every Halloween supply store and buy everything they have in the cop section?
With no department listed.
He's wearing a belt with an actual firearm and a taser. So, I mean, you would think, this guy's legit.
He could have been robbing. He could have been pulling people over unlawfully. And God only knows.
Investigators say the man is actually a convicted felon who was arrested for a slew of offenses, including impersonating an officer. But it brings up the question, what do you do if you have concerns about an officer's legitimacy?
Next time you get pulled over, are you really a cop?
Let's see your badge.
They say if you are concerned about it, call dispatch and make sure they're an official law enforcement officer.
So experts say you should always try and pull over in a well-lit, highly populated and safe area. It's okay to ask for identification. And if there's ever any question that the person behind you may not be legitimate, then you should call 911, explain the situation, and a dispatcher should be able to verify the activity.
Well, what happens if 911 puts you on hold for 30 minutes while this guy's staring at you?
Well, you see these stories in the news from time to time, but usually it's not in a motorcycle. Usually they have a black and white, and it looks like one of those police cars. It looks like a Crown Victoria.
Check badge numbers and just make sure that it's not someone that's up to no good.
And although we don't know whether this man actually attempted to pull anyone over, the fact that he looked real enough to even try it got him an up-close look at actual officers in action. Joy Benedict, KCAL News.
There's the story of the fake cop in Hemet.
What do you think this guy's story is? Do you think he was just a rapist who's looking to get women alone? Or do you think he's one of these guys who wanted to be a police officer, couldn't pass the test, and so now he has to run around impersonating them?
He created his own police officer fantasy camp.
It's just strange to me how people can start out normal. And again, we know nothing about this guy. But there are people who are out there who start out normal and then their brains just break for some reason or another. And then they end up doing truly stupid things like this. And you find out about it. You say, okay, well, clearly something went wrong in that guy's life. Maybe he got dropped on his head as a child. Maybe he got dropped on his head as an adult. I don't know.
Hey, let's go to Thad in Pleasanton. Thad, hello.
Hey, how are you doing? I've been listening to your show for a while, and just every time I get in my vehicle, I seem to like it. I live in Alameda County here in the Bay Area, and the crime is off the hook here. The town I grew up in, San Leandro, they just, the other night they shot some woman walking her dog with her significant other, and apparently the guy pulled over in his vehicle on East 14th and said, "Why are you wearing a red scarf?" And she's like, I don't know what she said, obviously, and he didn't like her answer, and so he killed her.
My goodness.
So they're looking for that guy. A month earlier, they killed another guy walking his dog, and I used to work in that town as a firefighter, and usually what happens is people cruise in from Oakland looking for victims on the main boulevard, which is East 14th.
What do you make of it when these politicians go on TV and go, yeah, I know the news talks about crime, but if you would actually understand the statistics, crime is going down in Oakland, crime is going down in Alameda County?
They've been telling us that for years now. And the thing that really gets me is Newsom won't fire up the juice machine, the execution. We voted for it 20-something years ago. It's on the books. He refuses to do it.
And we reaffirmed our support for the death penalty just recently. So even though the politics have changed, support for the death penalty is not. Thank you for the call, sir. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at noon for another edition of The John Phillips Show.